A wife reveals the secrets of her clandestine affair with the 19-year-old son of her neighbor, sharing a tale of betrayal and desire in this true story of infidelity. The gentle murmur of suburban life had woven itself into the fabric of my days for years. As the days unfolded, I found myself enveloped in the familiar cadence of life, the comforting scent of fresh laundry swaying gently in the breeze, the gentle serenade of crickets heralding the twilight, and the steady pulse of my husband's lengthy work hours. Our abode was cozy, meticulously maintained, and brimming with all the treasures that ought to bring a woman joy. Yet, I found myself restless. In the depths of my existence, I found myself gasping for breath, ensnared in a cycle that offered no satisfaction. It wasn't that my husband lacked kindness towards me. In countless ways, he truly was. He possessed a gentle spirit, steadfast in his presence, and showed his affection for me through his unique gestures. Yet, a chasm had formed. A widening divide that had developed between us as the years unfolded. The flame we once nurtured had faded to a soft ember, leaving me with an ache I struggled to articulate. It was at that moment that he caught my eye. From the very beginning, I had been aware of our neighbor's son lingering in the background. Yet it was during that unforgettable summer that he truly came into focus for me. He possessed a unique air about him, a certain distinction in his demeanor. At 19, he had transformed into a man, shedding the remnants of boyhood. His athletic build and confident stride commanded attention, making him impossible to overlook. His skin radiated a deep, warm brown, shimmering under the sun's embrace, and his smile, that smile, was brimming with the vitality of youth, as if he possessed an innate understanding of his desires and the path to achieve them. It began with gentle interactions, friendly greetings exchanged over the fence as I hung the laundry, or quick pleasantries shared as he strolled by while I tended to the garden. But soon, the glances lingered. His gaze held for a heartbeat longer than necessary, and I felt the stirrings of something long dormant within me, my heart racing as if it were awakening from a deep slumber. Every time our paths crossed, a familiar ache stirred within me, awakening a longing I thought had faded into the shadows of my memory. I attempted to suppress the emotion within me. He's merely a child, I reminded myself. This is not right. Once I found myself bound by the vows of a husband, the fabric of a life, and the sanctity of a marriage that I cherished. Yet, amidst it all, an irresistible temptation whispered to me, beckoning with its allure. One afternoon, as I was carefully shaping the hedges that lined our driveway, a sudden awareness washed over me. I sensed someone standing behind me. I straightened up, wiping the sweat from my brow, and turned to find him there, leaning against the fence. A relaxed yet knowing smile gracing his face. "You look stunning today," he murmured, his voice rich and inviting. The compliment struck me with a force I hadn't anticipated. For more than 10 years, I had walked the path of marriage, and the only words of praise that graced my ears came from my husband, often whispered in haste as he hurried away. Yet, when those words reached my ears, spoken by someone younger, brimming with life, they stirred something deep within me. A nervous chuckle escaped my lips, leaving me uncertain of how to reply. Gratitude flows from my heart. "Ah, you shine brightly as well." His smile grew broader, and he edged a step nearer. "You're always so kind," he said, his gaze locked onto mine. In his gaze, there lingered an unsettling quality that sent shivers down my spine. It wasn't the naive glance of a youth. It was the piercing stare of one who understood their desires fully, and was unyielding in their quest to attain them. My heart danced with excitement. A surge of excitement coursed through my chest. A sensation long forgotten. We lingered for a moment, caught in a silent connection, and I pondered how long it would be before we surrendered to the deepening attraction that drew us together. As the days unfolded, the tension between us grew ever more palpable. Every time our paths crossed, a spark ignited within me. The fleeting glances, the whispered words, the touches that lingered just a moment too long. It was growing increasingly difficult to overlook. I found myself weaving dreams of him that sent shivers down my spine. He captivated me. Not merely for his youth, but for the vibrant energy he infused into my existence. He embodied all that I had lost, vibrant, wild, brimming with potential. One evening, as I ventured out to gather some groceries, I caught sight of him once more. He stood beside his car, his shirt hugging his broad shoulders, beads of sweat shimmering on his skin. As he leaned against the vehicle, the muscles in his arms flexed in a way that caught my eye, drawing me into the moment. I took a deep breath. "Hey," he called out, his voice weaving through the evening air like a gentle breeze. "Do you require assistance with something?" My mind cried out in protest, a resounding no echoing within me. This felt all wrong. A path I should not tread. Yet my body turned against me. As I approached him, a smile danced at the corners of my lips. "No, I'm fine," I said, though deep down, it was a tale spun from untruths. My pulse raced, each heartbeat echoing in my ears, while my breath came in quick, shallow gasps. I was uncertain about how much longer I could restrain myself. The instant our eyes met, the atmosphere around us crackled with energy, as though an unseen force was alive in that very moment. He paused before uttering a word. Instead, he moved a step nearer, his presence enveloping the space around him. The scent of his cologne wafted through the air, rich and spicy, reminiscent of the earth's embrace after a gentle rain. It was utterly captivating. "Are you sure?" he inquired, his fingers grazing softly against my arm. The caress was soft, yet it reverberated through my very being. I recoiled at the touch, yet rather than retreating, I remained motionless. He gazed at my face for a moment, and I could sense the longing in his eyes. A voice within me cried out in protest, "This is not right." But my heart pounded fiercely in my chest, drowning out all other sounds. At that moment, the enchanting silence was shattered by the unmistakable sound of a car gliding into the driveway. It was my husband returning home from work. I swiftly retreated, flustered, my breath coming in ragged gasps. "Perhaps another moment," I murmured, my voice trembling. As I began to walk away, I couldn't resist the urge to cast one final glance back at him. His gaze trailed after me, ignited with a fervor that sent shivers across my skin. As I rushed indoors, a tidal wave of guilt washed over me. This cannot unfold. I find myself at a crossroads, feeling the weight of uncertainty. This moment feels insurmountable. Yet the reality lingered, casting doubt in my mind. If you find yourself captivated by this tale and eager to discover what unfolds next, wondering if this forbidden attraction will blossom into something deeper, don't forget to like and subscribe. You'll want to be sure to catch the unexpected twists and turns of this tale. Endless layers await discovery. That night, my thoughts were consumed by him. As the days unfolded, I discovered myself ensnared in his intricate web, unable to break free. It felt like I was perched on the brink of a precipice, acutely aware that just one more each step could launch me into a whirlwind, a journey from which I may not find my way back. But would I ever cease? Is it possible for me to? The days wove into one another, each one a mirror of the last, lost in the tapestry of time. Yet, all my attention was drawn to him. The young man from next door had woven himself into the fabric of my thoughts, becoming an all-consuming fascination. The lingering glances, the subtle touches, the heated exchanges between us. They wove themselves into the fabric of my thoughts, haunting me both day and night. I reassured myself that I was simply overreacting. He was merely a child. This was merely a momentary spark. Once upon a time, I embraced a life filled with love, surrounded by family, and shared with a devoted husband. Yet, with every encounter, the bond between us grew stronger, drawing me ever further from the life I once knew. I sought to divert my mind, scrubbing the floors, nurturing the blooms, dashing about on errands. Yet nothing could satiate the yearning that had stirred within me. And then, one fateful afternoon, it unfolded. As I sat on the porch, my gaze fixed on the sun sinking beneath the horizon, I suddenly became aware of footsteps approaching from behind. Without glancing back, I sensed their presence immediately. His presence felt as intimate to me now as the very rhythm of my own breath. "Hey, Mrs. Thompson," he called, his voice rich and inviting, as if it had woven itself into the fabric of our daily exchanges. I cast a fleeting look behind me, mustering a smile, striving to maintain my poise. "Greetings, Jason. How's everything unfolding with you?" He stood at the edge of the porch, his tall frame outlined against the sunsets. He possessed an undeniable allure that drew people in. His posture, his confidence, it was all so captivating. In that moment, I sensed the ancient walls I had devoted years to constructing around myself beginning to fall apart. I found myself pondering whether you might require any assist me with that garden, he urged, his gaze firmly meeting mine. "It seems like a tremendous amount of effort for a single individual." I ought to have declined. I ought to have sent him away, crafted some excuse. Anything to maintain my distance. Yet, in that moment, I sensed the exhilarating thrill coursing through my veins. "Of course," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "It seems I might welcome a bit of assistance." He flashed a grin, and my heart leapt in response. "Wonderful. I'll gather the tools and make my way over shortly." I observed him as he strolled away toward his home, his strong shoulders swaying with a natural elegance. My breath hitched in my throat. What was unfolding before me? This had transformed into something far more significant than a mere friendly exchange. It was an experience that transcended the ordinary, a brush with the perilous. A short while later, he returned, tools in hand. He placed them beside me, his gaze unwavering, locked onto mine. The intensity of our connection was unmistakable. The atmosphere was heavy with anticipation. And each look, each gesture appeared to draw us nearer to the brink. "I don't mind helping you out," he said, his voice dropping to a softer, more personal tone. "It brings me great joy to share moments with you, Mrs. Thompson. Your kindness has always been a guiding light for me." His narrative. A rush of excitement coursed through me, and I fought to keep my poise intact. Though I had transformed from the woman I once was years back, in that fleeting moment, a vibrant pulse of life surged through me. More intense than I had felt in ages. A spark flickered between us, an undeniable connection that lingered in the air, refusing to be overlooked, no matter how hard I tried to push it away. "You're welcome," I replied, my voice a mere breath, almost lost in the air. "Yet, this path is not a necessity for you. Each of us has our own journey to embark upon. I enjoy lending a hand," he remarked, a playful grin dancing on his lips. "Moreover, I find myself with no other pursuits to engage in." He lowered himself beside me, skillfully tending to the bushes with careful precision. As I endeavored to concentrate on the task before me, I found it utterly unattainable. His presence commanded attention, filling the space with an undeniable force. The aroma of his cologne lingered in the air, and the way his muscles flexed as he toiled captivated my every thought. My skin buzzed with excitement, and I struggled to resist the compelling urge to reach out and touch him. It wasn't long before the intensity of the moment enveloped me. As I knelt beside him, adjusting the flower pots, I could sense his eyes on me, his gaze enveloping me like a tangible embrace. I desired him. Above all else, I yearned to release all my reservations and surrender to the longing that had been blossoming within me. "Mrs. Thompson," he murmured, his voice now a mere whisper, drawing nearer than ever. As I raised my gaze, I discovered him standing right next to me. His eyes had deepened, brimming with an enigmatic essence that eluded my understanding. "You see, you remain as I recall." It was truly beautiful. My heart raced. I was utterly captivated. "Jason, I implore you. I began to speak, yet the words faded away before they could escape my lips. "Fear not," he murmured softly. His voice a deep, alluring whisper. "I'll remain still, waiting for your cue to take action." The moment lingered, tantalizing and sweet, as if it were forbidden fruit, ready to be plucked from the branches of time. I found myself caught in a delicate dance of emotions, wrestling with the weight of guilt and the pull of longing. Straddling the line between the woman I once was and the one I was destined to become. Uncertainty loomed over me, a tempest of choices swirling in my mind. Was it more perilous to surrender to his allure or to turn my back and retreat into the unknown? "Perhaps it's time to pause," I murmured, my voice barely rising above a whisper. I sought a path to reclaim my footing. Yet, beneath the surface, I found myself reluctant to bring it to an end. "I understand," he said, his voice gentle and filled with empathy. Yet, in that moment, his hand extended toward mine, a mere whisper of connection, a fleeting caress of his fingers against my skin. The suddenness of it coursed through me like a lightning bolt. The moment bore down on me, its weight palpable and undeniable. And for a fleeting moment, I felt the grip of chaos threatening to take hold. His touch sparked a fire within me, stirring emotions I believed were long forgotten. In an instant, the unmistakable sound of a car gliding into the driveway reached my ears. My beloved partner. I broke free from my reverie, yanking my hand back and rising abruptly, nearly losing my balance as I stood. Jason stepped back, his expression a mystery waiting to be unraveled. "Perhaps I shall lend you my aid another time," he remarked, his tone drifting into the ether. I gave a slight nod, my cheeks flushed with a sense of shyness that rendered me momentarily speechless. Perhaps, indeed. As I made my way back to the house, my heart raced with excitement. A cascade of emotions washed over me. Regret, longing, embarrassment. I found myself teetering on the edge of a line. A part of me yearning to leap across it with fervor. Yet, the other side, the side that clung to a family, a home, a life, that side was gripped by fear. If you're eager to discover the depths of this perilous allure, and whether I'll succumb to temptation or turn away, be sure to like and subscribe to catch the next chapter of the tale. The atmosphere thickens, and the plot is on the verge of twisting into something even more intricate. And for me, the most challenging chapter was just about to unfold. I found myself questioning the very essence of right and wrong, as if the boundary had faded into obscurity. The coming days loomed like dark clouds gathering on the horizon, hinting at the tempest to come. Each time my eyes met Jason's, the unspoken tension hung heavily in the air, a palpable force that neither of us dared to acknowledge. I attempted to cast it aside, convincing myself it was merely a passing fancy, nothing deeper. Yet, beneath the surface, I was aware of the reality. It was more than a fleeting wish. It was an abyss. A realm of peril lurking beneath the surface. Jason stood apart from the men I had encountered before. He radiated bravery, exuded confidence, and was brimming with vitality. His presence was captivating, stirring a sense of vitality within me that had long been dormant. With each glance and every touch, I found myself yearning for more. Yet, I found myself unable to surrender, not at this moment. I needed to tread lightly. On that fateful night, as I found myself in solitude within the living room, a sudden knock echoed through the stillness at the door. As the clock ticked towards 10 p.m., I found myself alone, waiting for my husband to return from his long day at work. A peculiar feeling of expectation enveloped me as I approached the door. As I lifted the lid, there he stood, Jason. In the soft glow of the porch light, his tall figure loomed, and I caught a glimpse of a subtle grin playing on his lips. "I hope I'm not bothering you," he said softly, his voice low and imbued with an elusive quality that I couldn't quite identify. My heart fluttered with a sudden thrill. I needed to put an end to this. I ought to have urged him to depart, to return to his own abode, and let go of thoughts of me. Yet there I remained, paralyzed, ensnared in the tension between longing and remorse. "No, you're not bothering me," I finally said, my voice trembling, revealing the storm brewing within me. Jason moved in. His eyes locked onto mine, unwavering and intense. As he spoke, his words danced through the air, igniting a spark within me that reverberated deep in my core. "About us," I swallowed hard, suddenly aware of the proximity of his presence. "Jason, this isn't right," I murmured, yet my voice faltered, devoid of certainty. "Why isn't it right?" he inquired, his fingers gently sweeping aside a wayward strand of hair from my face. The caress was delicate, yet it sparked a fire within me, a flame I could not tame. I felt the urge to distance myself, to shut the door tight, to seek refuge in the familiarity of my past existence. Yet, in that moment, I discovered I was moving aside to grant him entry. I found myself at a loss for words, my voice barely escaping in a whisper. "Yet, you linger in my thoughts." His smile grew wider, and he crossed the threshold. As he stepped over the threshold, an electric tension filled the room, thickening the air around him. The air between us shimmered with an electric tension, alive with unspoken longing. In that fleeting moment, we remained still, caught in a silence that enveloped us both. But then, with a gentle grace, Jason extended his hands, cradling my face as he drew me closer to him. I let him continue, the kiss gentle at first, hesitant, as if we were both exploring the depths of something new. Yet, as his lips met mine, the world around us dissolved into nothingness. It felt like I had been suspended in time, yearning for a moment, or a presence to finally rouse me from my slumber. And so he did. The kiss grew more intense, his hands gliding down my back, drawing me nearer. The warmth of his body enveloped me, a tangible reminder that I had ventured into uncharted territory, a line forever crossed. Yet, I remained unfazed. He enveloped me, the fierce connection we shared igniting a fire within, rendering everything else insignificant. The unmistakable sound of my husband's car rolling into the driveway jolted me from my reverie. My heart raced within me, a wave of panic washing over my senses. Jason withdrew as swiftly as he had embraced me, his eyes alight with comprehension. "We must pause," I urged, nudging him softly away, my breath quickening in rapid bursts. Yet, as the words slipped from my lips, a part of me yearned to continue, to weave the tale further. "Fear not," Jason murmured, his voice a soothing whisper. "I shall remain right here." He took a step back, yet it wasn't quite enough. The warmth from his body lingered in the air, reaching out to me like an invisible embrace. I required his departure. It was essential for me to safeguard my loved ones, my very existence. Yet, a significant part of me, a substantial part, resisted the urge to do so. As I stood there, my husband's voice echoed from the garage, and in that instant, the weight of the peril surrounding me became painfully clear. This entanglement, this yearning for Jason, loomed as a peril over all that I had painstakingly constructed. "I'll go," Jason declared, his gaze locked onto mine. "Yet, this tale is far from its conclusion." I nodded, my heart racing in my chest as I rushed to open the door. Once upon a time, in a world filled with wonder and imagination, there existed a moment that beckoned to be shared. He stepped outside, turning back one last time, his gaze filled with intensity. "You'll call me," he said, and there was a certainty in his voice that left no room for doubt. It was a directive, and I felt it within me. A certainty that I would. I shut the door softly, my body quaking with lingering emotions. I had stepped over a threshold, and no matter how hard I attempted to resist the truth, deep down, I understood that returning was no longer an option. The ensuing days unfolded in a haze. My thoughts swirled endlessly around him. I found it difficult to concentrate on anything else. Each time I laid eyes on Jason, an undeniable force tugged at my heart, igniting an all-consuming longing within me. Yet, I couldn't allow it to take over. "Not yet, my friend." I endeavored to cast him from my thoughts, to concentrate on my husband, to feign that all was as it should be. Yet, the reality was, it truly wasn't. All had shifted into the realm of the extraordinary. I found myself ensnared in a web of deception, with Jason as the hidden truth I struggled to conceal. The next encounter with him unfolded with the same certainty as the first. He had been anticipating my arrival. I possessed none. The thought of how he had known I would be there lingered in the air. As I ventured outside to collect the mail, I found him there, nonchalantly leaning against the fence, observing me with that identical, piercing look. "I was wondering if we could talk," he said, his voice a gentle whisper, yet carrying an undeniable weight. With a moment's pause, my heart raced in anticipation. "I'm not so sure that's the best course of action, Jason." Yet, he drew nearer, and just as I was about to speak, once more, he gently cradled my face, lifting my chin to meet his gaze. "Ah, the wheels are turning in your mind, I see it clearly," he inquired, his voice a soft murmur, meant solely for my ears. I chose to remain silent in response to him. I had no need to. The pull, the longing, it was unmistakable. And once again, I sensed the grip of control slipping away from me. "Perhaps it's time we had a conversation," I finally uttered, my voice quivering with emotion. "Yet, this place is different." "Not at this moment." Jason smiled, a knowing smile, as if victory was already his to claim. "I shall wait," he declared. "Yet you shall summon me." "I have faith that you will." I nodded, words escaping me in that moment. "If you share my curiosity about the twists and turns that lie ahead, whether I will plunge further into this tantalizing entanglement or find a way to retreat, be sure to like and subscribe. The tale is only beginning to unfold, and the tension is poised to escalate dramatically." As the days unfolded, my fascination with him deepened, blurring the boundaries of right and wrong in ways I never anticipated. Would I yield? Would I allow this affair to envelop me entirely? Or should I turn my back before the moment slips away? In the unfolding of events, the passage of time would reveal all. It's curious how desire can sweep you off your feet. In what way? In spite of your most diligent attempts. It weaves its way through the fissures of your existence, settling in comfortably as if it were always meant to be there. From the very beginning, I envisioned myself as a woman of strength, unwavering in focus, disciplined in my pursuits, and fiercely loyal to my family. Yet, in this moment, it seemed I had transformed into someone entirely different from the person I once recognized. As I found myself slipping away, a powerful craving took hold, one that I could not seem to master. Jason lingered in my mind, a spectral presence weaving through the shadows of my thoughts. The days that followed drifted by in a fog of eager expectation and heavy remorse. My thoughts drifted, ensnared by the vivid recollection of his touch, the warmth of his kiss lingering in my mind. Each time I laid eyes on him, be it from across the fence, or during those fleeting moments when our paths intertwined in the driveway, my body revealed my truth. The yearning unmistakably etched upon my features. Yet the peril was undeniable. Deep down, I was aware of it, even if I hesitated to acknowledge the truth. My husband, lost in his own world of work and distractions, remained unaware of the brewing storm within our home. Gratitude should have filled my heart for his unwavering presence, his steadfast devotion. Yet, I found myself not in that role. As I spent more time with Jason, a growing sense of resentment brewed within me for the life I led, one that felt increasingly stifling. Jason embodied liberation, thrill, and the primal fervor that had faded from memory. One afternoon, I found myself at the kitchen window, lost in thought as I washed the dishes, when my gaze fell upon him outside. He was propped against his car, his eyes sweeping the street, but the instant he caught sight of me, he stood tall, his gaze firmly connecting with mine. My heart danced with excitement, and I sensed the familiar tension weaving itself between us once more. I dried my hands swiftly and stepped outside, as though drawn by an unseen power. "Hey," I said, attempting to keep my tone light, even as the thrill of the moment made my voice tremble. "Hey," Jason replied, his lips curling into that charming, self-assured smile that left me utterly breathless. "It was my wish to find you here." As I attempted to divert my gaze, to collect my scattered thoughts, I found it utterly futile. His presence commanded the room, filling it with an undeniable energy. "You've been on my mind a lot," he added, his voice a velvety whisper, rich and deeply alluring. I took a deep breath, feeling my heart race. "Jason, we ought to reconsider." He moved nearer. And just as I was about to complete my thought, he cradled my face, his touch soft yet firm. "I have no interest in the expectations, Mrs. Thompson. I hold dear the desires we share. And I understand the essence of what we both seek." Each word he uttered resonated like a vow, an irresistible temptation that tugged at the very core of my being. I endeavored to cling to my determination, whispering to myself that I could bring this chaos to a close before it spiraled beyond control. Yet, with every moment we experienced together, I found myself being pulled deeper into his realm, drifting further from the life I had constructed. Before I realized it, he was kissing me once more, his lips colliding with mine in a way that was both passionate and strangely known. I found myself unable to break free. I had no desire to. The kiss transcended mere physicality. It was a vivid eruption of all that I had been desperately attempting to overlook. My body awakened to his presence, every part of me igniting in a way I hadn't felt in years. At first, the sound of the car pulling into the driveway eluded my ears. The sudden crash of the door closing sent a jolt through me, and I instinctively recoiled from him, gripped by a wave of panic. Jason's expression wavered, yet he stood his ground. Instead, he leaned in and softly said, "Don't worry. Allow him to witness what he must." I shook my head, my heart pounding with anticipation. "Ah. No, this simply doesn't feel right." Yet, the harm had already taken its toll. As I pivoted to confront the door, there he was, my husband, poised in the threshold. His eyes wide with astonishment as he took in the scene before him. His jaw tightened, his complexion drained of color, a portrait of disbelief. "Beth," he murmured, his voice raspy and filled with emotion. "What in the world is happening here?" The room swirled around me. Words eluded me. I found myself ensnared in the moment of treachery. In the moment of surrendering to forces beyond my grasp. The gravity of the moment bore down upon me, and I sensed my knees beginning to falter. Jason took a step back, his face a canvas of mystery. "I believe it's time for me to leave," he declared, his tone chillingly unfamiliar to my ears. My husband's eyes were fixed on me, unwavering and full of intent. He stood there, a quiet storm brewing within him, his anger just below the calm exterior. His fists tightened at his sides. "No, stay," he snapped, his voice taut with tension. "I seek to uncover the unfolding tale." In that moment, Jason paused, casting a final glance in my direction before he turned and made his way toward the gate. My heart raced within me as I stood there, frozen, like a deer ensnared by the blinding glare of oncoming lights. "You will not walk away from me," my husband commanded, his tone cutting through the air. Yet, Jason turned a deaf ear. He had no reason to. He had woven every word that needed to be woven into the tapestry of their conversation. As he crossed the threshold of the gate, leaving me amidst the chaos I had wrought, a profound realization settled in. There was no turning back. My husband's eyes sparkled with a mix of wonder and astonishment. "What in the world is this, Beth?" he inquired, his voice trembling. "I placed my faith in you," I pondered. "I believed you belonged to me." The impact of his words struck me, as if I had been physically struck. I felt the need to express my regrets, to share my side of the tale, yet the reality was that I found myself unable to do so. What had transpired was beyond my grasp, and the yearning that had enveloped me remained unaltered. Apologies escaped my lips in a soft murmur, yet they resonated with an emptiness that lingered in the air. They fell short. They would always fall short. He lingered for a moment, gazing at me with a blend of fury and sorrow. With a final glance, he pivoted and strode back to the house, the door crashing shut in his wake. There I stood, solitary, the weight of my choices lingering thickly around me. I had ventured too far, and now the consequences awaited me. Yet, amidst the gnawing guilt and shame that consumed me, a flicker of my spirit remained unrepentant for the events that had unfolded. The part of me that had longed for attention, for excitement, for that spark that made me truly feel alive. Jason had bestowed that upon me, and in a curious twist of fate, I couldn't ignore the lingering attraction I still felt for him. If you share my curiosity about what unfolds next, and whether Beth will confront the repercussions of her decisions, be sure to like and subscribe. The suspense is merely unfolding, and the intrigue is poised to soar to exhilarating new levels. I felt the weight of my actions on my heart, knowing I had caused pain to my husband. Yet, a flicker of hope lingered within me, questioning if Jason had truly walked away for good. Or might he be there poised and patient, as I prepared to step over that threshold once more. The allure was undeniable, and I found myself questioning how much longer I could hold out against it. The days that followed the confrontation unfolded like a slow, agonizing journey into a reality I had desperately sought to evade. My realm, once a sanctuary of comfort and certainty, lay in ruins, leaving me bare and open to the winds of uncertainty. The remnants of my husband's fury lingered in my thoughts, his words slicing through me with an intensity one had never foreseen. I had ventured beyond a threshold, one that could never be retraced. And now I stood at the precipice, ready to confront the consequences of my decisions. The affair had transformed into something far more complex. It was a tale of the life I had crafted, woven with the secrets I had hidden deep within. It was a tale of betrayal, where I had shattered the very foundation of my marriage. The trust painstakingly built over years of shared experiences now felt so delicate, overshadowed by the weight of my own desires. As I settled into the kitchen, my fingers danced along the edge of my coffee mug, lost in thought. The silence of the house was haunting, as if it held its breath, waiting for a tale to unfold. Since the incident, my husband had fallen silent, his words lost in the shadows of that day. His silence stood as a barrier, a fortress of coldness, unyielding and impenetrable. He seemed lost for words, unable to grasp the depth of the pain I had inflicted. And truly, I held no resentment towards him. I found myself at a loss, unsure of how to navigate through it. I had anticipated that Jason would make contact with me. In the depths of my heart, I yearned for a glimmer of reassurance, a sign that he still desired me, that our bond was not merely a transient dream. Yet, in an instant, he was gone, as if he had never been there at all. He failed to make the call. He failed to appear at the fence, where those stolen glances were meant to be exchanged. He had slipped away, leaving me with nothing but the empty pang of longing that clung to my heart like a shadow. I sensed the weight of wrongdoing in the air. I sensed the danger lurking in the shadows. Yet, deep within me, there lingered a shadowy force, compelling and unyielding, that would not release its grip. Each time I caught a glimpse of my husband, meandering through our home as if the world remained untouched, a wave of self-reproach washed over me. Yet, it was more than mere guilt. It was the void of what I sought. The fervor. The flames danced and flickered, casting shadows that whispered secrets in the night. The spark that Jason had ignited within me. A car rolled into the driveway, and my gaze instinctively drifted toward the window. It wasn't Jason's car, yet I recognized it immediately. My beloved partner. He returned from work, his presence enveloping the house like a thick fog of unease. With a deep breath, I sought to calm my racing heart. I sensed that this moment was on the horizon. And yet, I found myself caught off guard by it. The door creaked open, and he entered, his expression a mystery waiting to be unraveled. Our gazes locked for a fleeting moment, and then he averted his eyes, making his way directly to the living room. Silence enveloped him, words unspoken. And that was a greater devastation than any eruption of fury. The quiet enveloped us, a clear indication that he was closing me off. I stepped into the living room behind him, my mind a whirlpool of uncertainty about what words might escape my lips. The atmosphere surrounding us was heavy, laden with words left unsaid, and a chasm I felt powerless to cross. "Shall we have a conversation?" I mustered the courage to speak, my voice barely above a whisper, filled with uncertainty. Though his gaze was averted, the sharpness in his voice reached me like a whisper carried on the wind. "I'm uncertain about what we might discuss. Your desires have been laid bare, Beth." His words pierced through me, deeper than I was willing to acknowledge. In all honesty, I found myself at a loss. Uncertain of what I truly desired. I was uncertain if I could return to what we once shared, if I could somehow erase the part of me that had been stirred by something beyond my control.